Hello, and welcome back to another episode of FRC Strategic Analysis. Today, we're going to be diving into yet another match played by 1690 on Einstein in the rebuilt season, Match 12. We are also going to further discuss how the championship might have played out had Orbit made the finals, Nevin. So now introducing our teams, starting with the Galileo Alliance. First off, we have 7769, the captain of this alliance, the crew. They have very high BPS. They are a trench robot, meaning they can fit under the trench. They have a 2.75 ball wide dumper, and they do have a net on their robot, which lets their hopper kind of expand to about 60 balls, at least 60 to 70 balls. Next, our first pick, 1690 Orbit. They're a corner mounted, shoot on the move turret with very, very high BPS. And one of the most important things about them, and that is very noticeable, is that they have, in my opinion, the best driver in the world. That is the whole point of this video. We're going to be looking at how 1690 plays, as well as how, of course, how all these other robots interact. But 1690, that's a big one. And lastly, rounding out this Galileo Alliance, we have 5181, Explorer Robotics. They're going to be playing defense this match, and sometimes during other matches they would pass during active shifts for the Blue Alliance, but not this match. Next, looking at the Curie Alliance, we have our captain, 6800, coming out of Dallas, Texas, Valor, and their first pick, 254, the Cheesy Poofs. Both of these robots are trench 4-ball wide dumpers, meaning that they have very, very high BPS and it can also fit under the trench. And they also have a net on their robot, which means that they can expand to hold more balls in their hopper. Lastly, on this Curie Alliance, we have 8613 Barker Greybacks. You can see them lined up here by the trench next to Valor. They have a very similar robot to 254 and 6800, except their shooter can actually shoot in both directions. And we're going to see how they play against the hub and shoot with their intake facing the hub later on in this analysis. So the main strategy for this Galileo Alliance is to have 7769 cycle to the neutral zone during active shifts, while Orbit kind of shoots on the move through the tower and around, and then goes out and gets very nice pathing. So they get a lot of fuel that way. Essentially, that's what they're going to do during active shifts when they do have fuel. They path against the aligned zone wall and under the tower, so all the fuel in the aligned zone gets cleaned up really quickly. And when they don't have fuel, both the robots are going to cycle, relatively standard. And also during active shifts, as I said earlier, they sometimes have 5181 pass back to themselves because they don't need to be playing defense. On the other hand, the Curie Alliance actually plays this very differently, and in a way that we only saw one other alliance play on Einstein. They play triple offense. Because of the offensive nature of these three dumper robots, they are kind of forced to play in a manner of triple offense. And this strategy is very, very effective when executed correctly, but poses a few issues. First of all, because there's an extra robot in this aligned zone, there's going to be 3 robots, not including the defenser and the blue lines. That means that it's going to be much more clogged up, and that can sometimes cause robots to hit each other and make it more difficult. And that's a huge issue, especially when you have 5181 playing defense there. And that makes it much easier for them to play defense because they'll have more targets that they can switch off to if they see a better opportunity. Also, the control of fuel in the Alliance Zone is going to be much more tricky because some robots have to clean out from the Alliance Zone while others have to cycle, meaning that making these decisions on the fly is what separates good from great when it gets to this level of play. Now, looking at auto, it's relatively standard. We're going to see all 4 scoring robots do a 2.5 cycle, which I like to call it, meaning they come out to the neutral zone, score their hopper, get back, and then come out again, and then they get essentially 2 full hoppers and get positioned ready to play defense. Ready to go score another hopper in transition. And we're going to see 5181 here on blue, back up, eat through the depot, come here and shoot. And we're going to see the only unconventional thing in auto here is what happens from 8613. So 8613 is going to follow Valor into the neutral zone, and they're going to pick up about 25 balls and then actually shoot it out just in front of them. So that way 254, as we're going to see, is going to get a really good pathing on their second swipe, getting a really full hopper. But I mean, despite this, we're going to see the scores at the end of this autonomous period here. The Galileo Alliance is still going to win by about 20 points. So, I mean, regardless of what 8613 did here, Galileo was still going to win. But the really interesting part here is how transition gets played. So the blue alliance is going to have a relatively standard transition. We're going to see them both score a hopper of fuel, the both scoring robots. The one thing is we see 254 here. They're going to try to get back to their alliance zone, as we can see here, and they realize 5181 is kind of in the way, and they make this decision to pass here, even though they don't even have a full hopper, which is a very poor decision by the Cheesy Poofs here, because then they have to go back and take those same balls, and again, they still don't have a full hopper, and they're still in under defense from 5181, slowing them down quite a bit, meaning it takes much longer for them to score. One thing I really love here from 1690, if I just rewind about 10 seconds, is the way that when they're like not actively like playing defense, they're still inconveniencing their opponents. So it's like they're playing this role where they're kinda in the way, but not as a defensive role. So as we see here, their driver is so good that even when he's passing through balls here in the neutral zone, he can still interfere with the way that Valor is trying to path. And in addition, he realizes, okay, 8613, their hopper is almost empty. So what am I going to do? I'm going to switch off of Valor, and I'm going to defend 8613 over the bump and push them onto fuel and actually even get them beached, which is kind of crazy from this driver. And that's all while still trying to path through fuel and pass it back to the alliance zone, which is insane. The amount of practice that this driver has, especially knowing that 1690 did not get to compete and Worlds was their very first competition that they attended, it is insane how proficient 1690 is. And I think if you get Orbit a whole season worth of play, their driver gets even better to the point where they will bring the fight to High Tide and Madtown in the finals of Einstein, assuming that they make it there. In my opinion, they would have beat High Tide and Madtown as well. So they actually did a very similar thing to the Bucks Wrath in their first match on Einstein, where they got them kind of beached. So it's actually very, very interesting. And we also see 5181 here playing defense on 254 and preventing them from getting that last hopper off, which is really, really important. Lastly, this at the end of this shift, the Galileo Alliance is only down 15 fuel, meaning that there's not a very big margin to make up. Curie was not able to score very much in that 2-6 period, meaning that the Galileo Alliance was able to keep the score quite close. So going to this next shift of the match, Galileo does not have that much fuel in their alliance zone because Red controlled the fuel quite well coming into their first shift. And this shift is, relatively standard for everything. Orbit's going to be cycling. 6800 actually going to play some interference, and the Red Alliance is going to end up with almost all of the fuel back in their zone and all of the robots on their alliance with their hopper filled. But Galileo Alliance is also going to get a 130-point lead going into the 4-6 scoring period. So this is 130 points, and we'll see how the Curie Alliance actually ends up making up and surpassing the Galileo Alliance here. So in this 4-6 period, 1690 actually goes and steals fuel, which is a very good decision from their drive team. But regardless, Red can still run up the score because it appears 5181 did have some connectivity issues. As you can see here, they're completely stationary, not playing defense. And as we said, when you don't punish defense in this situation, when there are these 3 scoring robots in the Red Alliance zone, it's very easy to play defense. We can see their drive team 5181 frantically trying to fix their communication or maybe joystick issues. It's kind of hard to tell. But essentially, the Curie Alliance is left completely undefended for this entire shift, meaning that there's essentially no impactful defense on them. So they run up the score here, and they end up with a 50-point lead. And Galileo has a bit of a hill to climb. 254 actually hits a very nice steal here on Galileo. Not as big of a steal as it could have been, but they want to be safe with their intake. And it means that Orbit cannot be perfectly efficient in this part of the match. And again, relatively standard. So 6800 actually playing some interference, but I would have liked to see them prioritize filling their hopper here because Orbit's going to get back and score regardless. Also, you have that high BPS. You need to be ready for Endgame. So going into Endgame, Red is down 80 fuel. But all the Curie machines have a full hopper and a decent amount of fuel in their alliance zone. And for the rest of this match, these robots are just going to cycle fuel and try to score as much as possible. Besides for 5181, they're still going to play a really, really strong defensive role, despite that Red Alliance tower being protected. So as you guys know, in the endgame period, which is the last 30 seconds of the match, this tower and this tower are protected, meaning that if any robot from the Blue Alliance or the Red Alliance is contacting this tower, and then the opposing alliance touches them, that's an instant 15-point major foul awarded to the opposition. So we're going to see how Explore Robotics actually plays defense here on Cheesy Poofs, even though the tower is protected. So they just stop them from getting to their alliance zone, get them misaligned, and prevent them on this next part of the match. Cheesy Poofs goes and tries to intake some fuel and score it, but Explore Robotics plays this role where they're kind of pushing they're pushing 254, the Cheesy Poofs, in the corner, making it very difficult for them to actually get a line to the hub, assuming that they were going to be able to score. And that's easily, they easily stopped Red Alliance from scoring about 20 fuel here. And when we look at the margin, look at that. That's a 21-point win for Galileo. 21-point win. If we do subtract the penalties here, this becomes 705, and this becomes 694, meaning that this match would have actually been an 11-point match. But regardless, it's relatively like a 10 or 20 point. It's a very, very small win for the Galileo Alliance regardless. And this is why I'm saying Orbit, they have a relatively low EPA on StatBotics simply because they haven't played that much and they had some issues at Worlds because it was their first comp. That's just the nature of their first comp. We also have 7769 here. Number 3 EPA in the world. Number 3 EPA in the entire world. It's kind of crazy. Here we see this pairing of robots. Instantly you think, okay, this robot is going to Einstein. But sadly, as I covered in my last video, they were completely stopped by Newton because of the cruise shooter breaking. Very sad. And I think if they had made it to finals, again, as I highlighted in my last match, they would have brought the fight to Madtown and High Tide. And in my opinion, they probably would have won the finals. That would have been a much more interesting finals than watching Newton face off against Daly. But I mean, amazing play from both these alliances here. Great strategy, and the Galileo did end up eking out a win here. Thanks everybody for 100 subscribers on this YouTube channel. It really means a lot to me. You guys would never know. And please drop a subscription and a like, and please comment down below what matches you would like me to review next. Thank you guys so much for watching.